Okay, so I've got my drawing schedule starting to come together, and now I can look at some of the actual drawings that I've listed here and start to set those up. So the stair details I'm going to leave for now just because they're at the same scale as the drawings that you've done already, as are the reflected ceiling plans. But then the bathroom plans you can see are at a different scale. So I might even add some, add a field for that. So we'll just add in well, I'm going to assume we need a couple of sheets maybe for the stairs, so I'll make this 503. And then bathroom details. So even though these are going to be floor plans, they're considered details. Okay, so going down to any of the sheets that I have already, so maybe just starting with this, the ground floor plan, or, yeah, I'll just do that one. So ground floor plan there, you can see I've just selected, and I'm going to right click, and then again go to move or copy, tick create a copy, but this time I'm going to go down to the bottom and choose move to end. Click OK, and it's going to create a new layout tab for me, but this time at the end on the right. So I'm going to choose that, and then sorry, and then you can obviously still see the edge of the viewport there, but that's in my case on a viewport layer. And so in that case it won't print, because in the layer properties there you can see that that viewport layer is set to be non-printing. So I like to work that way because you often will need to adjust the viewports. You can always turn the viewport layer off altogether, and that's how it's going to print, but even if the viewport is visible, or the layer is visible, if you've got it set to be non-printing, then of course it still won't print. So with that viewport that's existing, that's already there, I'm going to select it, and then using the grips on the corner, just adjust the size and make it roughly the size I think my bathroom plan is going to be. And then to make the viewport active, we'll go over all the ways actually, because you're probably at the stage now where you're fairly comfortable working with viewports, and we can go into all the little options that you have for activating them. So, well, or maybe I'll go through with you and see which ones you remember. How do you go into model space if you've got a viewport on a page like this? So, how do you go into model space? So if we want to do things in this viewport, we've got to go to model space. Yep, there's three ways. Yeah, so that's good if you remember any of those. Yeah, so the one down the bottom, that's good. The paper button, that makes the viewport active. In other words, we're in model or model space, and you can see down here now it says model. If I click where it says model, it goes back to paper, of course, telling us that we're in paper space or working on the sheet. So that works using the button at the bottom, that's good. The other way, double clicking. If you double click inside a viewport, that does the same thing. And then to go back to paper space, double click on the sheet, and then it's back to paper. And then the shortcuts, if you like using shortcuts, MS is shortcut for model space, and then PS is paper space. So there's three different methods. I'm sure there are probably others, but it's good to at least know those. So then to change the scale of the viewport, again, we've got a couple of different options. You can either select the viewport, then right-click and bring up Properties, and you can change the scale there. Oh, so that's the annotation scale. So it's the one below, the standard scale. Watch out for that, actually. If you see annotation scale there, leave that alone and just change the standard scale there. So this one we want to be 1 to 20.
If you're not in the right view, it won't allow you, This is greyed out.
Oh, you've got to be in paper space. Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, then you need to select just the viewport, so press escape and then just try selecting the viewport. If it's still greyed out, then you might need to check to see if it's locked as well.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So the most important thing is the standard scale. That's the scale of the viewport. But you should also set the annotation scale to match. So that method works using Properties. but I'll show you some other ways. Okay, so again with the viewport selected, you can see down here we've got the scale, and you can always just change it there. Yeah, you can. Yeah. So then if you look in properties, you can see what it's doing. It's actually changing the annotation scale and the standard scale. So it is definitely quicker to do it down here, but it's good to know about that option you've got in properties, because then you can check to see if you've got problems with the annotation scale sometimes being different to the standard scale. So it's good to know about that option in properties. Also, if you've got the viewport active, in other words, if you're in model space, you can of course still use that scale option down there. So you can see that as I zoom, then the number or the scale on this options bar changes. So if I again set it back to 1 to 20, as soon as I zoom, that's changing the scale, and we're of course going to see some different numbers come up down here. So the usual process for setting a particular view, in other words, setting what you want to show in a viewport, the usual process is that you zoom and pan, you're just using the wheel on your mouse, to find the area that you want to show, then set the scale. So you can see now I can pan using the wheel and just holding it down to get the pan tool. So I can pan without affecting the scale. But of course, as soon as I zoom, then the scale's going to change. But you can of course just set the scale again. So now I've panned as much as I can to get that bathroom where I want it to be in the viewport. And here, just while I'm at it, I'm going to delete that thing. So now I want to go back to the layout or paper space, so I'll double click onto the page, and then selecting the viewport, we can use the corner there to bring that down and see how much bigger it needs to be to get my bathroom to show properly. So let's bring that right in so I can just see the bathroom and nothing else around it. Because we're zooming right in, it's going to help you with the cropping. There we go, so that's really pretty good. So there we are. So I can easily fit that whole bathroom plan onto this page and then have room for elevations as well. Okay, so when you get to that point, then you need to make some decisions about how you're going to draw those extra drawings. So you can see that you need bathroom plans at 1 to 20, but then also bathroom elevations. And where possible, those elevations should be on the same sheet as your bathroom plan. Where possible. You probably won't fit all of them, but you can at least fit a couple onto the same page. So I'm not going to go through all of that, I'm just going to get you started on that. So, so I might just select this viewport, I'll move it up a little bit so that it's a bit higher on the page. That's about right. And so then on the Layout tab, you've got the tool to make new viewports. So I might just go back and make sure my viewport layer is current. And then again, on the Layout tab, you've got that rectangular button. So it can be a bit hard to find the tool to make a new viewport because it doesn't say viewport, it says rectangular. But if you remember that it's on the Layout tab and it's in this Layout Viewports panel. And then again, you've got that rectangular button. You can make any shape viewport you like in AutoCAD. But generally they will be rectangular. So that's why I'm using the rectangular tool. So I'll just click a couple of points to get my viewport started. But then how do I know how big this elevation is going to be? And how do I know where it is? That's where you've got to go back and decide how you're going to draw it. So I might decide here, well, I've got my floor plans laid out below the section there, so that makes sense. But most likely I'm going to need to project off this bathroom plan to make my elevations. So I've either got to create more room around this plan for the elevations, or set them out somewhere else, and I might do that. So I'm going to set them out maybe below. Okay, so actually it's going to get a bit confusing for you if you do them all that way. So yeah, so what I will do is move this down, and this is where you do need to do a bit of juggling. So maybe, again, so it's clear, I'll quickly set up a first floor plan, which you would have already, so you shouldn't need to do this because you'll already have the first floor plan done. So I'm just quickly doing what you should already have, pretty much. Oh, I duplicated the wrong one, doesn't matter. Okay, so do you remember how to get the drawings to be in the same place on the page? It's one of those really... So, pretty much, yeah, that works. You can use those methods to copy and paste. But then, if you've already got something on your page that's in a certain location, then there's a couple of other little tricks you can use to help you with that. So here I've got this ground floor plan sheet, and I've got this new sheet that I'll rename. And maybe so that I'll start putting the drawing numbers in. So we've got this proposed ground floor plan, and that's meant to be A103. So let's put that into the tab name now. So A103. And then my next one is going to be A104, proposed first floor plan, or level 1. L1 plan. Okay, so firstly I'll, in that viewport, double click to make it active, and then just as I showed you before, I'm going to zoom and pan to find what I want in that view. And actually here, oh that's right, yeah. So there I've got the first floor roughly centred in that viewport. So now I'll set the scale here to 1 to 50. But then we can tell by flicking back to the ground floor plan that it's in a different place on the page. So how do you get it to be in exactly the same place? So on the ground floor plan sheet, I can draw a line, and I'm going to draw it from 0, 0, and then snap to the corner of my building. Okay, so then I'm going to select that line, right click, go to clipboard, and then copy with base point, and type 0, 0. Then go to my new sheet, make sure firstly that I'm in paper space, click on the button down there, then I can right click, go to clipboard, and then paste, and then again type 0, 0 as my base point, or my insertion point, sorry. And so now I'm going to select the viewport and click move and snap onto the corner of my building. That's our set out point, and then snap to the end of this line. So I'll go back to my first, also my first page, my ground floor plan sheet, and I'm actually going to use a shortcut here to zoom all, so that Z enter and then A enter, and then I'll go to the second page and do the same thing. So Z enter, A enter, and that's using the zoom all option rather than zoom extents, which will set the page or make the page fit into the view. So then you can see if I flick between these two, can you see how they line up exactly? And that's really important. It'll help you a lot when you're flicking through, particularly when you make the PDF file with all the sheets. If you can flick through and quickly see where things line up or where they change, more importantly. So here we can see obviously the external walls should line up exactly, and then it's really clear what's changing inside. So that's a really important thing. So now I can delete these lines, I don't need those anymore. And so we can apply the same process with the bathroom sheets. You'll see as you go to set these drawings up, there are lots of options you can use to line things up in a similar way. So now, going back to my page, you'll see in a moment why I spent a bit of time on that. Okay, so now I've decided, well, I'm going to draw my bathroom elevations around this bathroom. So is it going to fit? If I draw an elevation up here, it's probably not yet, so there's not enough room there. So I'm going to select that whole drawing, or that plan, and then I'm going to use the Move tool, click a base point, and then with Auto turned on, bring it down, and I'm going to type in a round number. Okay, so I'll make that, say, 5,000. I'll give myself some more room. I'll make it 10,000. That's 10 metres. Okay, so now it should be clear why I showed you what I was just showing you. If I go to this new plan, why isn't the first floor plan showing? Because I've just moved it down. So how do I get it to come back into the same place? And this is the last trick I wanted to show you. Oh, similar, it's the pan, there's a shortcut for pan. But yeah, so you've got to use the shortcut, dash pan. So dash, P-A-N, enter, and that allows you to type in a displacement for pan. So here I'm going to click a point, move the cursor in the direction I want it to go, which is up, and then type in the measurement that I've just used previously, 10,000. And now it's back to the same spot. Now, if that isn't working for you, you could just repeat the process I showed you earlier and set the whole viewport up from scratch. And that would also work. But that'll save you time so that you can move your drawings around and then you can accurately pan in those viewports to adjust the position of things. So do you want me to repeat that? Yes. Or yeah, I'll repeat it. If it doesn't seem like it's something that's very useful for you, it's probably because you just haven't gotten to this point yet. But this is something that you'll all need to do at some point. So maybe I'll get a section and do the same thing. So I should give my section sheets a better name as well. I've got them here set up somewhere. Or maybe I don't. Okay, so maybe I'll do a new sheet for a section. Yep, so let's with this one. Okay, so just going through the whole method. So firstly, starting with the viewport there, I've got the section where I want it to be, and then set the scale to 1 to 50. There's some layers missing there, but let's see if we can find. Here we are. It's just that layer there.
Did you draw those, or did you just insert them?
Oh, they came from Revit. Yeah. So, okay, so again here we've got the section showing up just fine on this sheet, but now if I go back and move that section, so let's say I need to move it, move the whole thing up to allow more room for us to do some more drawings. So I'll move, in fact, yeah, I'll just move those two, so just with the Move tool. And so again, I'll just type in a round number, 5,000 this time. So I've got some more room now, but of course when I go back and look at this on the new page I've made, the section's moved. So it's when you see that happening that this option will become clear why this option is so useful. So again, in that viewport, it's dash, P-A-N, dash pan, enter, and then you can click a point, move the cursor in the direction you want it to pan, and then type in that measurement, which I know is 5,000 because I've just used it. And then it goes back into exactly the same place. So it's just that extra little command that a lot of people don't even know is in AutoCAD, but it's been there from day one. And yeah, really useful when you're working on pages like this. So then coming back to the sheet with the, oh, sorry, where's my, yeah, so there, another example. So here, coming back to the sheet with my bathroom plan, of course, the bathroom plan isn't showing any longer because it came from this first floor plan. So what do I need to do? Exactly. So you can see here already that I've not labelled my drawings very well. This one here. So again, if you go through and label them as you go, it'll make your life a lot easier. So this one is A 504, I think. Yeah, that's close enough. And it'll be the first bathroom detail. Oh, it's more precise, so you don't have to go and work out the position exactly again. If you've already got the position right, and then you know that you moved your drawing 10 metres, it's much easier to just pan that amount exactly, rather than guess and then go back and draw the lines to line up exactly. So it's just if you've got the way to set up, it'll make it a lot easier. And probably clear when you've done a few, it'll probably be a lot clearer why that pan option is really helpful. Okay, so here you can see again, this will happen to you all the time. You'll have part plans where you've zoomed in on a certain area. If you've then moved that view, then you've got to go and fix your viewports. So again, I know that this one has been moved 10 metres down. So it's, again, oops, on the wrong page. Okay, so it's 10 metres down this way. And I've just zoomed to show you that it's there, but I'll undo that to put it back to the way it was. So again, instead of guessing and trying to find it, I know it's 10 metres below, so I'll just type dash, pan, click a base point, move it in the direction I want, and then type 10,000, and there we are. Again, if it's not working for you, you can set it all up from scratch again. But you may find it's easier if you've already set it up to use that method. And yeah, so the very final thing now is to just get started on one of the elevations. Now I'm not going to draw the whole elevation, of course, but just to give you an idea how you're going to set this out. Now if I go to I'll just go to one of my wall layers. So I'm just going to draw some lines projecting from the inside of my bathroom. Okay, so just as you've been doing previously, you can draw lines to project off your floor plans, establish a ground line or floor line, fill those together. So then I need to know the height of my bathroom, which I can see here. $2,300. So I'll offset that amount. There, so that's going to be the size of my my bathroom elevation, even though I may have some things above it to show where it attaches to the roof structure. But that's roughly the size. So now back onto my bathroom detail sheet, we can see that elevation there. So again, I can just zoom roughly to position that in the viewport, then set the scale. And adjust it further. So like I was saying, you should be able to fit at least a couple of elevations onto the same page as your bathroom plan. Depends on the size and the shape of your own bathroom, but you should at least be able to fit one or two. And then the other elevations maybe would go on to the next page. And I better fix that drawing number up while I'm at it. So it's at A504. Okay, so again, try to get your layouts a bit more organised than mine are. And so here you can see, the very last thing I'll show you, I know I've said that a few times, but I'll just do this one last thing. You can see there that I've got these drawings numbered on my layouts, but that they're not going in order. So now I've got this bathroom detail. I want that to go after this, maybe after this floor plan for now. So again, I'll right click on that and go to Move or Copy. I don't think you can drag them. Oh, yes, you can now. Sorry, you can. You are. Yep, you can. There we are. That's a good method. Yep. Sorry, I keep forgetting that. Yeah, I have seen that before. Yeah, you can drag them. There we are. That's a good way. Yep. I was going to show you. You can go to here, right click, and when you go to Move or Copy, you can just choose the one you want it to go before, and then it moves. So, well, that won't move it anywhere. So let's go to the one below. So you can see here, if I choose Proposed GFRCP, that's this one over here. So if I click OK, it's going to go next to that one. But yeah, dragging them properly is the best way. I always forget that. There we are. So you probably don't need to make all of the sheets that you're going to need, but at least set up the ones that you know you'll need. So set up, as many sheets as you can with these different views set up, and then try to have sensible drawing numbers, and then maybe also just watch out for the fact that when you have lots of layouts, sometimes you're going to click on the double arrows at the bottom and the bottom right to see the full list. So you can see there it's not showing layout 2. And when I go to show layout 2, it won't show the first one. So sometimes there just isn't room to show all of the layout tabs, so just make sure you're aware of that you get the full list there. You can of course delete layouts. When you right click, you can just go to delete. There's no problem deleting layouts. There we are. Oh, as much as possible, yeah.
Yeah, so if I've got bathroom on each level,
Yeah.
do I do, like I won't be able to fit, like would I put the plans together, or would
Yeah,
I put
yeah,
one plan and elevation
yes,
with that plan
that's right.
together?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. That's right, yeah. If it was a really large commercial project, then you might put all the plans together. But for a project like this, definitely have the elevations that go with each plan together with them as much as you can. So the... Yeah, I mean, it's not quite at the level of working drawings. So these are really construction certificate drawings. So they're drawings for approval rather than drawings for construction. You should be thinking about the level of detail that you'd need to build it, but technically these aren't to be built from. They're still not for construction, technically. Yeah, yeah. So the bathroom details. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, think of it as though you're describing how it's going to be built, but you also need to know that it's technically still an approvals drawing, not a construction drawing. So the level of detail is basically to demonstrate compliance with the BCA, so that it's capable of complying with the BCA. That's the requirement, basically. But it can get a bit confusing because it is a bit arbitrary. The amount of detail does vary from person to person, and some people would put enough detail for construction just because they like to do all of that detail, but it's not a requirement that you have.
I don't know what the difference is between the detail required for construction, because I don't know, what needs to be constructed and how the construction process works. So
Yeah.
I don't know that level of, well, this detail is enough that somebody can build it, and this detail isn't.
Yeah, well, basically, if it doesn't have all of the things that are going to be built, then it doesn't have enough detail for construction. So it needs to show all of the physical elements that are going to be built, and The only way to learn that is by talking to builders, reading specifications, and reading those books like the ones I've been showing you. And you just have to read a lot. But the best way to learn construction I found is to actually read the trade books. So you get the books that the tradespeople read when they're doing their courses, and read those. Yeah, it's the only way, really. If you want to learn construction, you've got to learn the same things that the tradespeople learn who are going to do the building for you. And we haven't got time in a course like this to cover all of those things, but that's what most people do if they're going to go out and do documentation at that level. But again, that's not what we're doing. We're doing certification drawings. Okay, so these are for construction certificate. They're not showing builders how to build. They're showing how this project complies with the BCA, which is a different thing. Yeah, working drawings is a huge thing, and it takes a long time to learn and a long time to draw, of course, because there's a lot more detail than we'd even have in these drawings. It's one of those things that everyone, I know it sounds bad, but is what I was told in architecture. You learn it by doing it. So in other words, when you go and get a job, you'll be expected to be able to work those things out on your own. But again, you'll be given a lot of resources to help you with that as well.